Assalamu alaikum, everyone. Thank you so much for joining us today. I am super excited about our amazing guest today. We have Thecia Jenkins from the Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council joining us. So for those of you who haven't heard of what HCDVCC is, it's a nonprofit that coordinates system responses to domestic violence to increase victim safety, hold batterers accountable, and prevent further acts of violence. Thecia has been developing curriculum and training professionals in law enforcement and healthcare, education, and social services on the topics of domestic and sexual violence, emotional intelligence, and trauma-informed response for over 25 years. She is a graduate of Texas Women's University and holds certifications in diversity, meditation, behavioral consulting, emotional intelligence, and coaching. She consulted and was featured on the Oprah Winfrey's Network's production of the Book of John Gray, addressing the issues of sexual assault. And Thecia's favorite quote is, "No significant learning occurs without a relationship," by Ruby Payne. We are so honored to have her with us tonight. And as we close out Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I want to talk to you a little bit about what we've been doing this whole month. If you guys have been following us, you already know, but if you haven't, and this is the first time you're joining us, what we have been talking about this whole month is about making people aware of the societal acceptable forms of abuse that the culture has perpetuated and has sort of accepted that it's okay. The emotional, the psychological, the verbal abuse, the financial abuse, the isolation, all of that. And also how prevention is key to changing that, changing the tide of what's going on. So Thecia, welcome. We are so honored to have you here with us tonight.
Thank you, Sadaf. It is my pleasure to be here.
Thank you so much. So as I said, our whole messages have been about making the community aware of subtle and underlying types of abuse. Thecia, what is primary prevention in your own words? What does it mean, and why is it necessary for us to come together as a holistic community to actually turn the tide on this?
Primary prevention to me is stopping the violence before it ever occurs. Simple.
Yes, absolutely. And so how do you think that's possible? What do you think needs to be done to make that a possibility? Like in a, in a perfect world, we all want that, right? Stop the violence before it occurs. Why should the violence even occur? So
Right.
how do we plan that? Because we have an imperfect world. What are you guys doing? What are you guys thinking? How do we make this happen?
Well, one of the ways that we make it happen is by continuing the conversation after tomorrow. Tomorrow is October 31st, the end of Domestic Violence Awareness Month. And here is the reality, is that it is going to unfortunately continue on November 1st. And so we have to continue the conversation and having those conversations in our communities about, why do you think that violence is happening? Why do you think that in your relationship that there is abuse that is occurring? And I actually had a conversation with a group of students on Monday, and there were two emerging things that I thought were very provoking. One of those was loneliness, dealing with loneliness. If you do a drill down on that, what the students were able to say was, I'm afraid to be by myself. And some even verbalize that I have been in abusive relationships because of that fear of being alone. And on the flip side, for the person who may be causing the harm, their fear of their partner leaving them, that what? They exercise power and control. Why? Because they are afraid of being alone. They are afraid of rejection. So we have to begin to have those core conversations.
As to why, right?
Why?
Only when you know the why can you deal with the solution. Excellent.
Exactly.
And that means engaging the community at every level. And what was, what really struck me was when I was having this conversation with you after the Faith and Survivor series, where we, I heard you and we talked about the fact that 1 in 10 victims come to domestic violence agencies, but 50% go to their faith, their communities of faith, right? And so we were talking about the fact, and it really struck me where you said that all our scriptures are used to justify abuse. So it's not just us where we talk about, verses from the Quran being used. It's also from the Bible and the Torah. And you guys have experienced that. And we heard from, survivors from the Christian faith, from the Jewish faith, from the Latino community, from the African American community, from every community, how they have had this issue, right? So can you speak a little bit about that?
Definitely. And, the whole purpose that we come together with our sister organizations is around faith and domestic violence is because for most people, not all, but most people have some faith that they practice and that they believe in. And here is the reality is that when we talk about primary prevention and we talk about systems, and that's going to move in. So let me back up for a minute. So when we talk about primary prevention, it happens at 4 levels. It happens at the individual level, relationship, community, and societal. And so moving into the community and societal, so community would be our faith-based organizations. That part of primary prevention is providing the training and technical assistance to our faith-based leaders so that they can what? That they can better or more effectively share the messages in the Quran, the messages in the Bible, whatever your belief system may be, and to take away some of that mystery. Again, as a Christian, I know that in Christianity, that the scripture from about wives submitting to their husbands, and then if you go a little bit further, to break that down, that the husband is also submitting and they submit ultimately to the God that they serve. And so really having that conversation about what that truly means so that a person who may be a harm doer, abuser, whatever terminology you want to use, doesn't turn that around and say, well, I said those mean things to you. I beat you because you're supposed to bow to me. Let's really get to the heart of what that means. And, even in the past, there was one case where a woman had reached out to her pastor and was asking about staying in the relationship, and she was told to stay there and to pray. And I believe in prayer.
We have that all the time.
And across the board, no matter what your faith is, that prayer is powerful. However, there has to be some action, and then there also has to be some wisdom. Yes. Why would you counsel someone to stay in a relationship where it has got to the point that there's even physical violence that is happening? I don't believe, no matter what God you're serving, that is never the plan of any God, that they want their creation to have bruises, that they want their creation to be sexually assaulted, that they want their creation to live in fear. And so making sure that those who are faith leaders, that is a part of primary prevention, is to talk about what constitutes a healthy relationship and mirroring that relationship after your faith in your creator.
That is such an excellent point, because we see all this interfaith work, right? In trying to feeding the poor and, all of these different dialogues that are happening. But we need to bring the dialogue of domestic violence prevention to all the faith leaders as an interfaith issue. And we really need to have this education with them that, no scripture allows, this is not okay. How can we deal with this while still remaining true to the faith, but also remaining true to the abused and to the victim and to the couple, and ensuring that there's healthy relationships. So I know that primary prevention is synonymous with, of course, you want primary prevention for healthy relationships. So tell me what you think a healthy family looks like.
Thank you. So a healthy family, again, doing this work for 28 years, when I first came on board, what I now recognize is that I had no clue what a healthy relationship was, Sadaf. And I continue
a lot of us don't
know what that is. And so in doing some research, I came across a framework that I have embraced and have shared for the last 28 years. So a healthy relationship is based on 4 components. One is boundaries. asking yourself in your relationship, does my partner, does my parent, does my sister, whomever you're in relationship with, do they respect my boundaries? And boundaries are both physical and emotional. So in a healthy family, what boundaries look like is that when you tell someone that you're going to pick them up at 8 o'clock, that they're not still waiting for you at 10. And when you show up, it's like you did them a favor, even though you've kept them waiting for 2 hours. What a healthy relationship looks like with boundaries is not constantly telling your child or your partner or your mother bad things like, why do you have that green on? Green is not your color. I hate when you wear green. You look ugly in green. That constant criticism, that is not a healthy relationship, because what that does, it diminishes one's self-esteem, self-confidence, and self-efficacy. So the first thing you want to ask is, are my boundaries being respected in this relationship? And we talk about the physical, touching you in ways that make you uncomfortable. Right? The second component of a healthy relationship is equality. And here's the thing, I want to be very clear that, often we sell this thought that in a relationship it's 50-50. It is absolutely not 50-50. That if you and I are working together, collaborating as agencies, here is the reality, is that you are the 100% expert on the Muslim community, hands down. So what? I'm going to follow your lead, whereas I may be an expert in safety planning. And so that may be new to you. So I have 100% there. Our 100% and our 100% is what makes us strong. And I hope that you're tracking what I'm saying.
Yes, absolutely. It's about equity, right?
Exactly.
Bringing what you have to the table and making sure that everyone has access to the best.
Exactly. And in a marital relationship, your husband may be the one who is the best cook. He makes the best curry in the world. Yeah. Whereas she may actually, because she has an engineering background, she's the one who's going to figure out why the lights aren't going to come on. So it's not about gender. It's about what? The gift and the talent that you bring to the relationship. That is equality. And also equality is not where you always feel as though you're sending up the white flag and surrendering to the other person. So boundaries, equality, and then communication. Communication is that, do you have the ability to speak up in that relationship and to let your partner, let your mother, let your father-in-law know, when you said XYZ, I felt. In an unhealthy relationship, those words get caught in your throat. Why? Because of fear of rejection, fear of retaliation, and the fact that you have had maybe a bad experience. So in a healthy relationship, you are able to what? To voice what you need, what you want. You're able to what? Advocate for yourself. And then the final one is self-esteem. Asking yourself, how do I feel about me in this relationship? And here is the reality. If I'm in a relationship where I am constantly being sexually abused, assaulted, called out of my name, not allowed to go to the temple, not allowed to go out and get a job, not allowed to hang out with my friends, if I'm in a relationship where I'm always sending up the white flag and it's whatever you want, I don't have a voice in this relationship. If I'm in a relationship where I'm never able to communicate, I'm not happy, then guess what? My self-esteem is diminished. So those are the four core of a healthy family. In a healthy family, you are empowered. What? By the fact that people respect your body and your mind. You are empowered because what? There is shared equity in that relationship. You are empowered because you both are able to give voice to your wants and your needs and desires. And at the end of the day, you both feel good about yourself. That's a healthy relationship. That's a family thriving.
Absolutely. And we all have that same expectation. We all feel the same way. It's not like you are feeling that, and for us, the definition of a healthy family is completely different, and everybody's working towards a different goal. By what you said today, that is exactly how we feel a healthy relationship is, with boundaries, equity, managing expectations, self-esteem. All of that is what we want in our families too. So what does that mean? That means that we all need to work together, because if we want to tackle something like domestic violence, which is a public health issue, right? If we want to tackle something like that and actually eliminate it, right? A violence-free world, like you said, if that's what we want, then we have to join our hands. It's a bipartisan, bicultural, it's one goal. And our children are all growing up in the same society. We're not in our own little microcosms that, we're growing up here. No, we're all in the same society, and we have to make the society safe for everyone, right? And we have to make sure that all of this education is key, right? That's what we are trying to work on, and that's our goal. And I love the fact that we have you guys to work this with, because Harris County Domestic Violence Council has always been so kind and so warm with us. And we've loved working with you guys. Abir and Barbie have been wonderful. They came and did a series of trainings for us, for our counselors, our caseworkers. Thecia, I know I've attended your children and domestic violence trainings. They're always very enlightening. And, we are happy to come to you and work with you and make this a possibility. You know what I'm saying? So, I mean, is there anything else that you would like to tell our community about primary prevention, about healthy families, about how you see this moving forward?
Moving forward, one of the things that we're excited about at the Harris County Domestic Violence Coordinating Council is we were recently awarded a grant through the Allstate Foundation, and it's to do a curriculum called Expect Respect. And so we brought on a facilitator who has a master's in social work, and she is actually going into the schools and working with middle school and high school students. And the topics that are being covered in this program are around conflict resolution, self-esteem, diversity, empowerment. And all of these topics, it happens over a 24-week period. And again, it's to get in there and to have these conversations with young people, to give them the skills. And there's something also called social emotional learning. Social emotional learning. And you see here in my backdrop, I've got EQ, which stands for emotional intelligence.
Yes.
And to me, that's a big part of that primary prevention, is helping people to have those emotional intelligence skills, that level of self-awareness, that when I know who I am, that you, Sadaf, may come to me and say, well, Thecia, I don't like the way you did X, Y, Z. And, in fact, I don't want you to ever do it that way again. That if I am self-aware, that I'm able to set those boundaries, I am able to effectively communicate, I am able to what? Because I feel good about myself, to say, Sadaf, I appreciate that you shared that with me. However, I will continue to do this. Or tell you what, why don't we come together and come up with a mutual strategy, versus just allowing myself to bow down and say, oh, she doesn't like what I do. But that's emotional intelligence skills, that I have that ability to what? To advocate for myself. So that's the whole idea behind this Expect Respect, is teaching our young people how to advocate for themselves and how to what? Navigate the nuances of relationship.
Love it. I love it. I cannot believe how this is happening so simultaneously. This is the first that I heard of this. And we are also working on curriculums for middle school and high schoolers on what a healthy family, what a healthy relationship looks like. So I would love to get together with your facilitator and see how we can collaborate with that as well, because that is something that, you heard at our fundraiser when we talked about engaging men and engaging women's teams. We've already started that. We're working on our young professional teams. And that's going to be continuous, where we work with the men and we work with the women, and we train them not only on what abuse is and what red flags are, but also what a healthy family looks like, how to start a conversation with the abused as well as with the abuser, because we can't isolate them and act like they're not part of not only are they the problem, but they're also part of the solution. They have to be a part of the solution if we want things to work, right? And a lot of times it's what they've seen, that's what they've been raised at. So giving them awareness, giving them a kind hand sometimes can help much more than isolating them and rejecting them. So we're working on that as well. But part of our project is going to be working with middle schoolers and high schoolers in our Islamic schools, in other schools that we can, get access to. So we would love to work with your facilitators on that and bring that aspect in, while we bring in the healthy families aspect. So I will definitely talk to you about that. And that
Awesome.
sounds amazing. That sounds amazing. I really feel that it's time. The time is now. I think that this tide is going to turn, especially because we've all joined hands, and by working together, we are creating synergy.
Yes.
And we are going to make this happen. And, inshallah, 2 years from now or 1 year from now, we're going to be looking back and we're going to be like, wow, domestic violence rates have increased by this much percent because we decided that this is what we want to do.
Yes, definitely.
You know, thank you so much, Thecia, for your wonderful words of wisdom. The primary prevention, the healthy families that you talked about, it was very enlightening, and it was very nice to know that we're all working towards the same goal.
Yes.
I'm
Yes.
very excited. I'm very excited about this journey. I
Awesome.
really am. And I'm excited that you're a part of it with us. I appreciate you taking a Sunday evening to talk to our community and to, let everybody know what you think and how you're with us on this and how we are going to be able to do this together.
Well, I'm
Yeah.
watching here, and I think it's Abreen Ahmed, Prazada Noreen. Which state are we in? We're in Texas. I would love, as we get ready to close out, I would love for those who are live with us to put in a very brief definition of what healthy relationships means to them.
Okay.
So if you're watching us live, because I love audience interaction, and here's the thing, I'm always a student. I am a forever student. So if you feel comfortable simply by chatting in, what does a healthy relationship mean to you?
Okay.
So I think it's Rihanna says respect. Exactly. And that goes back to the conversation we were having, Sadaf, around equity and equality in a relationship, that if I am in a relationship, that I feel respected for the knowledge and the gifts that I bring to that relationship.
Absolutely.
Love it.
Absolutely. Respect is number one in any culture.
And someone has put their contact number there, Sadaf, maybe for you. They're a PE teacher at Everest Academy in Stafford. So yes, healthy relationship is that all members in the family are happy, comfortable in sharing. And that goes to the communication piece. Exactly. Yes. So here's the thing. I think we're all on the same page. It's just about us amplifying the message.
Yes. And creating safety.
Yes.
If you have safety in your home, if you have safe spaces where people feel respected, where their self-esteem is not damaged, where they feel like they can talk and express their concerns and their voice,
yes.
Imagine what communities can become.
And that's where the thriving comes in. I'm getting excited because I'm seeing all this here. Peaceful environment. Someone says, realize your place in this universe and being humble. A healthy relationship means love, respect, transparency, and honesty. And here's the thing, you can't be transparent if you're constantly living in fear. That was one of the things that came out of the conversation with the college students I was talking with this week, was about that fear of rejection and them saying that I'm afraid to be myself. And Brene Brown, the work she does around vulnerability. So transparency has to be there, but transparency can't be there if our boundaries aren't being respected, if there is not equity within the relationship, and we can't communicate. Love it, love it, love it. Less judgment. Yes.
Yes.
Judgment.
Brilliant. Judgment. I don't know how everybody thinks that it's okay to judge somebody else. Yes. Whether it's the parents with the children, whether it's the husband or the wife, or even the wife with the husband. We just have to put our judgments on everything, from what you're wearing to what you're cooking.
And what you said about, I think you said something very key. You talked about the importance of managing expectations. Sometimes because people don't meet our expectations, though, is where the judgment comes in. And so that's where we have to allow people to be their true selves. Here is the reality of that you and I, just as friends, Sadaf, not even an intimate relationship, you and I as friends, that I have to recognize that we look at the world through two different lenses. However, at the same time, there are so many commonalities. And if I am constantly sitting in judgment about everything you say and do, how do I ever get to really know you?
Absolutely. Absolutely. You know that picture, I don't know, the picture of the old lady by Stephen Covey. Like I had done that in a training, and I just love that, because it's like you can see the same picture and see an old lady, and you can see the same picture and see a beautiful young woman, and they can both be correct. Yes. You just have to learn to see each other's perspective. Yes. Right? It's a shift of paradigm. That's all it is. Awesome. And if we can change those perspectives, I'm getting so excited about this. This year,
your audience is like going at it.
Excellent, excellent. I'm just loving it.
I think somebody is with a Muslim program, domestic violence program, I think in Virginia.
Okay,
Awesome, awesome.
awesome.
Okay, well, I could talk forever.
I know.
We're not going to do that.
No, and you know what we'll do is if anybody has any questions later on as this goes and it goes and people watch it later on, I will definitely just send them to you and send them the answers, and we can just keep this collaboration going and have the community give their input on how we can work on our curriculums with their input. And that's what I've asked for the whole community, guys. We all need to come together and we all need to work on this because it's a beautiful goal that we have, right? Healthy, happy, safe families. And I can see that happening. That's why it's so exciting, because it seems like it's very possible. It's very, it's within our reach.
Yes.
Through education, but also through intentional interactions. Yes. And I'm so happy that you've started doing that. We've started doing that. And the fact that we have such an amazing relationship to do this together.
Right. Well, I'm very excited about your new role at An-Nisa, and I have no doubt that you are going to do an amazing job. I was blown away by all the accomplishments as I listened to all of what was being said at the gala on Friday night. So thank you. Thank you for all that you and the entire team of An-Nisa is doing. Thank you.
Thank you so much. And thank you for all your help with helping us grow and training us and building us to where we are today and working with us and being such an amazing partner. Love you, Thecia. Love HCDVCC. And if anybody has any questions, be sure to send them to us and we will send them to Thecia as well. And look, you are going to have much more of Thecia coming on. She's going to be training us. She's going to be working with our community, and we're just gonna have a ball working on this shared goal and making it happen. So thank you so much, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Thecia, and I'll see you soon.
All right. Bye-bye.
Bye. Have a wonderful rest of the day.